Well, welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, the first episode of 2022. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Well, Sylvain, it's wonderful to hear your voice. You and I have been exchanging emails and texts over the past, it felt like, we haven't talked in a long time, so it's great to hear you, great to see you. And how are you, my friend? How are you doing?
We're doing great. We're here in Florida. I'm a visiting scholar for the semester at the University of South Florida. They've been awesome. We're actually designing a MOOC, a free online course for the public.
Yeah, what's a MOOC?
A MOOC is a free online course for the public. The University of South Florida uses MOOCs to recruit essentially students for credit, essentially, and they've been quite successful. One of the MOOCs that they have on diversity has over 250,000 registered students.
Wow.
And it's a very powerful recruitment tool for them. And so when I was approached by them to do something for them, I said, well, absolutely. And the topic is the future of food. And so very popular. And I've been recruiting some guest speakers for the course, and I've had over 125 volunteers to guest lecture for free in the class. So yeah, it's been great. The support is awesome. And obviously the weather's nice. Our kids are in school here in Florida, experiencing something unique, something different than in Canada. So we're doing great here. How about you, Michael? I know that you were affected by this huge storm recently, 50 centimeters. Oh my God. So are you doing okay?
Yeah, thank you. All's good. I mean, I'm supposed to be in New York actually today. There's a big trade show, the NRF, National Retail Foundation trade show in New York, which it was virtual last year, but prior to that, I hadn't missed it in 20 years. And it's about like 50,000 people go to this trade show. It is one of the big, marker points in the year. And this year, for a variety of reasons, so few. And one of the reasons I was going there is with Retail Council of Canada, I would actually go in advance and I'd do a store tour for Canadian CEOs who went to New York, because so many went to New York. I'd go down in November and I'd find the most interesting stores, and we'd do a bus tour. And then we had a cocktail party for Canadians who were visiting, wherever Canadian retailers are going to be. A Retail Council wants to be there. So few Canadians were going that it wasn't feasible to do any of that. And then I had a couple of things fall through because a lot of people weren't going and things started to wrap up. Like many big trade shows, it's the events that happen around the trade show that really is where the kind of interesting things happen, right?
Yeah.
Dinners and whatever. And to sum it all up, actually kind of a Floridian term, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, basically.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah.
So,
in the last week, I've had 3 events canceled. So we had in-person events scheduled for the winter, and I was supposed to fly back to Canada for a few times for a few events, and unfortunately all of these were canceled. I think the next event is going to be Seattle, where you and I will be meeting face to face again. So I'm looking forward to Seattle. I'm really just hoping it won't get canceled, because I really need Seattle. Seattle is a good show, a great show for food innovation. So, and we have our podcast there. We'll have a booth there, you and I, and so I'm really looking forward to meet all of the people in the food industry at Seattle in person.
Yeah, and that I think the date is April, right? Like the 21st of April is the number, I think. 21st, that's 22nd, and 23rd of April. So that's far enough out, I think.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, you and I were going to get together actually at the Restaurants Canada show, which typically is the first couple of days of March, but they moved their show, thinking that was like a month too early, I guess. I mean, you got to make a call on these big shows well in advance, right? It's very hard to be a conference planner, right? You got to make these calls. So they plan, I think it is now mid-May. I think it's the 9th or 10th, just to throw a date. So I think that's the next big event.
It's probably going to be a couple of weeks before our return to Canada. Kids are done with school end of May here, because it gets too hot in June, right?
Right. Interesting. Well, I do want to take advantage. One last question: how many students do you estimate are going to be part of this class? And
so the USF actually believes that we can attract over 30,000.
So 30,000. So what do you get? Like 125 TAs? How does that work? How does that work?
all the quizzes are actually online,
Oh, I
and
see.
so
I
it's
see.
all designed in advance,
Mm.
and so people don't pay for this course, but if they want a certificate, they have to pay, I believe, $100 US.
Oh, I see.
And typically, about 75% of students will request a certificate. So just think of the money that the
Yeah.
University of South Florida makes, and I'm not charging anything. I'm doing it for free. I'm a visiting scholar because I get to meet with
Hmm.
a bunch of interesting people
Yeah.
for research. And so, and of course, the big topic right now is supply chain management.
Of course.
And being a Canadian, looking at some of the issues that we're looking right now, obviously. So I'm meeting up with a couple of colleagues here next
Mm.
week to look at some of the projects we can actually conduct over the next little while.
Well, you bring a fascinating perspective. Now, this would be your fourth university: Guelph, Sask, Dal, and this one, at least four, right? That you've taught at,
Oh,
and
I
right?
actually I've been a visiting scholar. So I've been a professor in Saskatchewan, Guelph, and Dal. But I've been a visiting scholar at the University of Helsinki in Finland, at the University of Xi'an in China for a month. That was a few years ago. I was a visiting scholar also at the University of Innsbruck for 1 year, and now at the University of South Florida. So this would be number four. Yeah.
And this is, so I just wanted to talk about that because it's so people understand your trade craft, your life as a professor. This is the normal course of things, right? You be
Oh yeah,
invited to
absolutely.
go to different
People, so
universities, be
we
a visit.
that's what we're expected to do, and obviously our research output is impacted by that. And of course, you get inspired by working with people who have a totally different perspectives
Sure,
on
absolutely.
certain issues, and so you want to be exposed to different perspectives. And of course, as you know, Michael, because you've been to America several times, they have a different way of looking at things.
Yeah,
The scale is just not the same thing.
yeah, I mean, and more so now than ever before. And you're in Florida, which is interesting. I
Well,
mean,
because we've been talking about the border in the
yeah,
news of late, and
yeah,
and the vaccine mandate, and truckers, and I have to. It's sad to say, but in America, Canada is not necessarily as important
hmm,
than the U.S. is for Canada. I mean,
yeah,
that's because here they have options. They have Mexico. They have 360 affluent consumers to service. I mean, it's just the game
yeah,
is just completely different, and that's why
yeah.
sometimes as Canadians we tend to forget that we're just we're North America's New Zealand, really.
Well, it's so true because I'd often describe it as a diseconomy of scale in Canada, right? There's a lot of things that are very difficult to do. We have the geography, we don't have the people, we don't have the density. We have a lot of these things, which makes, grocery and food and restaurants that order of magnitude more complex. And we have great partners in the United States, and we import a lot of food right from Florida. I mean, citrus. I think when I think citrus, I think Florida, California, South Africa, and Israel, kind of in that rank order. But
Yeah,
the trade between just even the state and Canada is massive, right? Just in terms
absolutely,
of
and
just the pure
especially
trade.
right now. I mean, in the winter, it's very, very critical for our food security.
Sure.
I would say that there are three hubs in America. There's obviously California, the Arizona hub as
Yeah.
well, and also Florida. But as you know, Michael, over the years, that our procurement strategy as a nation has gone south a little bit further with Mexico and
Sure.
and more so. Yeah, but Florida still plays a really important role. I mean, agriculture is around us. You just drive around and you see fields. People think of Florida as a haven for condos, but not really. Where on the Gulf side, there's a lot of farming going on here.
My last time on a Floridian farm, we went on a tour of a citrus grove, and I remember we had my son was very young, and we got attacked by red fire ants in the grove. Have you ever had that happen?
No,
Um,
no.
they're very common there, so watch out for them. They swarm around your feet, and you don't know they're there. They climb up, and they all send a signal to attack at the same time, and it feels like someone's
Oh
sticking
my God.
knives into your leg, and like
How big
it's
are they?
well, they're little red fire ants, but they bite like piranhas, but they all bite at the same time. So I don't know if this is going to make it on the podcast, but that was my experience. It's not and they're very common. My sister-in-law used to
Wow.
live there. You stand anywhere near a citrus tree, look down. That was our mistake. And you don't know they're on you. Like they're all over your legs, maybe 100 of them. And then they all bite at the same time.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Well,
It's crazy.
we're next to State Park here, so
Yeah.
and I'm a jogger, so I enjoy running outside.
Yeah.
So
They won't catch you. That's fine. Just don't stay
no,
still.
but the first morning I went to the state park, I saw a sign: alligators present, known to attack humans. So as you can imagine, Michael actually stayed away from waterbeds and
No kidding.
and I just made sure that I run in the center there. And for some reason, I really ran faster that morning.
A little motivation there, a little extra motivation. My last story about Florida, I was golfing, and I had golfed many times, and my ball went near the water, and I was kind of trotting over because it looked like it was beside a log. And then the course marshal came zipping over and stopped me. He says, "Son, that's not a log. You get a drop for that. You stay away
Incredible.
from that. You stay away from that gator, my friend." Anyway, it's quite.
That's right. You can't really recreate the Happy Gilmore scene. I think that was a trick scene there.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, let's get on with the show, and of course we're back with trying stuff, our fun segment, and here's my trying stuff. The trying stuff.
That's right. And mine is in the fridge right now,
Perfect.
ready to be drank.
Perfect.
We brought it from Halifax, so looking forward to taste this.
All right. Silver Swallow Kombucha, the luxury kombucha, and this is from Ottawa, from our good friend Andrew Roberts. Sent us.
Now, do you like kombucha, Michael?
I've never had it before.
Are you serious?
So the good news and the bad news. The bad news is I can't compare this to any other kombucha. The good news is it's the first time I'm trying it. It's January. We thought what a great time to try it, whether it's dry January, February. But I've never had it before.
I'm not a big fan of kombucha. I don't drink the stuff on a regular basis, but this seems like a really interesting product.
Well, let's get to that in a bit. I got new champagne glasses for Christmas. Look at that, stemless champagne glasses. And that's for all of our audience who are watching our YouTube. Don't forget, we've got a YouTube channel where you'll be able to see this and the trying stuff segment. We'll get to that. We've got a great interview with Adam Kaat, an author. You heard him speak. He wrote a book, Life on the Grocery Line. It's the front line of grocery. He's got a very interesting perspective. So
I'll be honest. I was actually, I think I was at a hotel at some point traveling and saw him on CNN giving a really interesting interview. And he was talking about his book, and I immediately thought, we need to invite him. And so I couldn't find his coordinates, so I went on Facebook, found him on Facebook, and was able to connect. He doesn't have a communication agency or anything like that, so it was really easy to connect with him. And he's such a nice guy. My goodness.
Yeah, it's a great interview, and he's one of many that we have coming up. So we still have we've got great guests coming up. We just landed, for example, the president of Saint-Hubert, who's going to join us a little later, I think in March. But we've got lots of great guests lined up and lots of things to talk about. So let's get to talking about a few key issues. You've already kind of mentioned them. I mean, I got to think at the top of our list, I did want to do predictions for 2022. Let's get to that next. I did want to talk about the thing that's most present is this, this vaccine mandate that the government put in place so that truckers can't pass by the border. Now, you can imagine the difficult place that the government was in from a policy perspective, and even companies were in from a policy perspective. I mean, basically, okay, you got to get vaccinated. Many organizations have fired lots of employees because they put in a mandate, so it's not unusual. But you're
and
thinking,
some transport companies have actually offered substantial bonuses to entice truckers to get vaccinated.
Which isn't moving the needle, right? You're right, because I talked to people he said, well, at first it was 2, then it was 5, then it was 1,000, and then it's a bonus of 25 for that, and still not moving the needle. And it's, you tell me, but I saw numbers like 25%. So it seems a community that is over-indexing in on vaccinations, and now we've got a problem.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, I think 2 years into this pandemic, if you haven't gotten a jab yet, chances are I don't think you'll get it. I mean,
unless now my one data point for you from your home province of Quebec, they mandated that to go in the liquor store or their cannabis store, you had to be vaccinated. They had a
Oh, yeah.
2,000% increase or some kind of crazy increase in vaccinations. Like at the end of the day, money incentive doesn't seem to be.
Well, that number came from the government. I'm not sure if it's actually entirely accurate, to be
Hmm,
honest. There's still going to be many Djokovic's out there
hmm.
not wanting. I mean, think of the sacrifice that Djokovic has made just because he didn't want to get that jab. I mean, it's just he had a shot at history, tennis history.
Well,
21st Grand Slam, and he
yeah.
decided to just walk away from all that because he didn't
Yeah.
want to get the jab.
Well,
Wow.
we could talk. I think he was arrogant and thought he could trick them. Is I would start at that place. Let's fill out the forms and nobody will
Maybe,
care. Maybe.
maybe, but and of course, I mean, I actually do believe that there's about 10% of the population who just won't get the jab no matter what.
Yeah, that's been a consistent stat. That's been a very consistent stat in Canada,
Yeah,
10 to
and
15%.
and in trucking, it's the
Yeah,
same percentage, and so
not higher, just same
it
percentage.
mirrors what we see in society. But that 10% is quite critical because we're already short 18,000 truckers
Yeah.
already. And so it's just going to add to the deficit that we have with trucking. So that's 8 to 16,000 on the Canadian side, and that's about 125,000 on the American side. And so the mandate is actually going to start on the U.S. side on Saturday, January 22nd. So I've always been concerned about
Hmm.
the vaccine mandate, not because of the mandate itself. I mean, if the government believes that a mandate is important, so be it. It's
Hmm.
just the timing. I mean, the
Hmm.
timing is not
But
great.
if not
I mean,
now, when? I mean, you got a community that's never going to get vaccinated, and it's not like 18,000 truckers are going to suddenly show up in May. Like
it's just, I mean, Omicron has
it's
completely
winter. Is it?
paralyzed the.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, it's just it's awful right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I was actually on the phone yesterday with two CPG companies, and they're operating with 20%, 30% less people around,
Sure.
and so it's obviously you could see before the holidays that things were slowing way down because of Omicron.
Hmm.
And then, of course, you have January in the middle of winter when we buy a lot of food from the US. It's about $25 billion worth of food every year, wholesale from the US. 70% of it actually goes through the border on wheels. And so there's a lot of business going on between Canada and the US.
Yeah.
And
And of
so
course, you got restaurant, and of course, you got though food consumption is food consumption, but in Ontario, Quebec, restaurants are closed, so that
yeah.
food consumption means it's going to happen in the grocery store by and large, right? In two of the biggest
And
provinces in the
then, of
country.
course, you add recalls. There was a major recall of salads, and that takes away more food from the market. And snowstorms. You guys went through a snowstorm recently. That slows things down too. I just felt that really this mandate adds fuel to the fire at the worst time. Yeah, I think it would have been more prudent for the government to just wait until we're done
S-
with
s-
Omicron.
Spring or
Uh,
something, if all goes well, at least the.
because
Mhm.
I got a couple of memos last night from some from CPG companies in confidence, and it's not. I mean, the worst is yet to come. I mean, we're going to see. I'm predicting that we're going to see some grocery stores temporarily close as a result of what's going on right now, because you just can't operate all of the stores right now
Yeah.
that are and have them half empty. It's just you
Hmm.
can't do that. So
Hmm.
you're going to see some stores close so they can service the public. I think Canadians will continue to have access to food they need,
Yeah.
but you won't have as many choices for a while.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good clarification because there is still, I guess it's about choice. We've been talking about that. I've been talking about that for months, basically because of the supply chain. Basically, you might not have the brand you want, you might not have the size you want, you might not have the color you want, but
Yeah, exactly.
consumers need to be more willing to substitute. Now that's a more specific thing when it comes to food, but maybe you're having frozen blueberries instead of fresh blueberries shipped
Yeah.
through the U.S. kind of thing. Is that what you're thinking? Like those kind of choices?
Pretty much, yeah. So obviously, I don't think there's any reason to panic, but I am concerned, and of course, you saw Stats Can's release this morning. Food prices are up 5.7% now, so we're above 5% steady. So inflation. because you take
as you predicted in the
as we
Canada's food
predicted,
price report.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so as we take more truckers out of the system, the economics of food distribution in North America is simply this for Canada. If you want truckers to service Canada with fewer people around, you got to pay them more.
Right.
You
Yeah.
got to pay them
Or put it
more.
on an airplane. I mean, you can put it on an airplane if you can
And
find one.
flying is more expensive too. And so that's really the reality. So I actually do think that there's going to be some food, not as much as we used to see, but there's going to be
Mhm.
some food for the next little while. But that food is going to get more expensive, unfortunately.
So this,
Yeah, you're not, you feel, you don't feel, you're not concerned at all about what's going on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the public policy implications of not imposing the mandate because all kinds of people have lost their jobs because of the mandate. It's a very difficult place for governments and businesses to be in. I'm always a little glass half full. The creativity and ingeniousness of the CPG companies, the
Well, I
grocers.
think the Quebec government, when they changed their minds with the vaccine mandate
Yeah,
in
that's a
healthcare of all places, they were going to lose 2,000 people, and they decided to change their minds. But they did put in place specific protocols to
mhm,
make sure that both patients and employees, were able to coexist safely. I mean,
yeah.
they did do that, and so to accommodate employees, and employees were asked to be tested every single day too. So there are measures you can put in place to make sure that we can control the spread of this virus as much as possible, beyond mandates. But like I said, I've never questioned the mandate. I think like I said, if public health officials feel it's important to do, then let's do it. But January 15th, with everything that's going on with Omicron, I did question the timing.
Well, it's another chapter of the COVID era. We thought we'd be past this. We didn't think we'd be past supply chain challenges, but
Well, in
here we
March of
are.
2020, it was demand induced. Shortages were demand induced, not this time. And this is why I'm a little bit more
Mm,
concerned, because this is all about it's about supply side factors,
yeah,
really.
and
And there are
you know,
many of them.
my concern is for smaller communities, mid-sized communities. I think that if you close two stores in Toronto, you can drive to the other store. But I think there's a risk in the smaller communities, and there is food deserts, as you know, across the country. It's just not helpful. So
No, it's and I just want to make sure that people. I just wish, Michael, that some leaders would manage expectations. Because right now, all we're hearing is things are rosy, things are great, but things aren't great, things aren't perfect, and that's fine. That's okay. Just make sure, because I actually got a couple of phone calls this morning from reporters telling me that some people are showing up at the grocery store angry, lashing out at grocery clerks, people like Adam that
yeah.
we've interviewed. And I think it's unfair. I think it's important to tell people the real story, what's going on. They'll be
Hmm.
fine, there'll be food, but fewer choices, and that's okay.
Well, let's segue into we've already kind of got a prediction, I guess, but we ended our last season or last year with your top stories for 2021.
Yeah.
As you think about the year to come, and then we'll get to our segment trying stuff with our silver swallow kombucha. What do you think?
Yes.
And what predictions do you have for? Are you in the? Do you have a working crystal ball there with you? Did you bring that from the office? Like, what are you thinking for 2022 is on your mind?
Well, I think 2022 will be a tale of two stories, I guess. So we're actually in the middle of the first story, which is not going to be great. Things are going to be choppy and messy, and we're going to see a frugal customer. But as we get over that hump,
Mm,
and actually, I'm pretty optimistic. I think we're starting to see the end of the pandemic. I don't know. I'm not a epidemiologist, but
mm,
I'm actually hopeful that Omicron will lead us into an endemic. I hope, and if it is the case, then people will feel more comfortable. We'll be moving on, uh, still with mask, or I mean, I think people will continue to be very careful,
hmm
as they should. But at the same time, people will start thinking about the future again. People will start planning again. People will start moving around again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, People will start making plans, and of course, the food industry will probably follow. Food industry is very resilient, so it will follow the consumer who will feel more confident about the future. That's what I'm expecting going into the spring. So maybe my crystal ball is not as foggy as yours, or maybe it is as clear as yours. I don't know. How do you feel about the future right now for 2022?
Well, as you said, it's like we live in this Dickinsonian times, the best of worlds, the worst of worlds. I mean, some categories, like the grocers, our audience is a mix of both grocers and food service. It's a very difficult time for the restaurants and food service business. Walloped again with closures. I think that's going to leave a mark. I think you're going to see some big implications from these 2 months of closures. Right during the Super Bowl, it's going to knock into St. Patrick's Day, which for many pubs
Yep.
is an intense time. The grocers are, their sales volume, if they can get the product, back to our first part of the conversation, their sales are flying because that's the choices you have. I think broadly, I think you're going to see a super cycle of technology investment in all of retail, because there's been,
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
whether it's, e-commerce has grown, the acceleration is there. You now need to kind of have the systems and the processes to sustain that volume, which, everybody rushed into it. You did what you could. You stood up curbside. You did whatever. Now the focus is going to be on making that systemic. So I think there's huge investments coming. And I'm optimistic. I mean, there's a twinge of concern because once, twice bitten, twice shy, or whatever it is. Fool me once,
Yeah.
Shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, or whatever, however that goes. But another, I worry about another. I worry about another variant because we still haven't oriented ourselves to vaccinate the rest of the world. And that's what, where we can, outside of our world here in North America, okay, we got great numbers, but you go elsewhere in the world. And I worry about China. We all worry or think about China because of their zero tolerance policy means they're going to be shutting there's cities now, particularly in advance of the Olympics. There's entire cities that are ports that are shut down to 14 million people locked behind doors. At zero tolerance policy on the other end of the extreme, means continued and more exacerbated disruptions in supply chain. So, I think we still got a couple of years ahead of us of something. But as you say, I'm with you. Again, let's hope we start together in Seattle, and let's hope we go in Restaurant Canada, and we get together, come up for the Retail Council's big store event, and life gets more normal as we thought it might before the variant. And we'll see what happens. But all right,
but I do think, I mean, the one message that resonates with me, I actually do think that we need to strike a more functional, from a food security perspective. I mean, we need to strike a more functional balance between saving lives and making sure that Canadians are fed. And I'm not sure we're there yet, to be honest. And so there's more work to be done there. We can't be we have to be realistic about how we can stop this virus, how we can win against the virus. I don't think we can win against the virus. The virus will be with us. And so that's why I'm very concerned about this fantasy of getting rid of the virus. I don't think it's actually possible. And for the food industry, from a policy perspective, implications are huge.
All right. Well, that's a cut at predictions, but we got a whole year ahead of us.
Exactly.
Until the summer to talk about this is wonderful. And I'm going to sign up for your course. By the way, I meant to say, if when your course kicks off, maybe we can get some folks to sign up for it here.
Hey,
take
absolutely.
a deep dive, right?
Yes.
Anyway. All right. Well, listen, you've got some kombucha in the fridge. Why don't you go grab that? And then we'll try our product for our trying stuff segment. So go grab your kombucha.
I will.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to our Trying Stuff segment, which is a very popular segment, both here on the podcast and on YouTube. Today, Silver Swan Kombucha, the champagne of kombucha. Thank you to Andrew Roberts. This is an Ottawa-based company. And
where you're from.
Where I am from. That's right, my hometown. Now, a couple of interesting things. Andrew sent this to us a while ago, And
Yes.
we've got lots of food coming up. You can see some in my background if you're on YouTube. So we've got a great series, and we said, when's a good time to have this kombucha? It's, whether it's a dry January or a dry February, now's a pretty good time. So I have to say, as I said earlier, I've never tried kombucha before. So I'm going
I
to the
still can't
top.
believe that, but anyways, there's 0.5% alcohol.
Yeah.
0.5.
I think they have to, Andrew might tell us, but they probably have to say, well, there's probably like not zero. And they probably have to say,
Yeah.
well, there's some. So it's in a champagne cork. So I just uncorked it. Let's open it up. There we go.
Hey, we opened up at the same time.
Well, this is almost like celebrating New Year's Eve. How does it smell?
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, you Omicron bastard. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's pour this thing.
Pour it in.
And see.
Oh, it's got a nice...
Wish you would have more wine companies sending us samples.
I know. As you know, as I've related, I'm a big fan of champagne. I love the color, nice straw-based color. It's got an effervescence to it.
Yeah.
No,
it's got a very nice color. You can see through it, and very bubbly. It smells good too, huh?
Mm-hmm. Let's try it.
So I don't even know how, if you have to taste like wine or you just drink it.
Oh, that's good. It's got a nice light, nice note on the tongue.
Yeah, that's right. Power to fermentation.
So let's talk about this market. I mean, kombucha is a thing. I mean, it's been a thing for decades in the in the small health food niche, but it's really exploded.
It's growing.
It's in I see it in every store in every which way. And talk about the growth of these. I don't know, would I call them health beverages? What category would these fall in?
I think most people are actually attracted to kombucha for because of their health, and of course there's a lot of focus on gut health in recent years, and kombucha really fits well with that space, right? People who are concerned about health, and so the product, the category, which has grown immensely in recent years, is very much attached to this the healthy lifestyle sort of thing. So I'm not too surprised that what's nice to see are great Canadian brands like this one being successful out there and doing very well. So it's because there's lots of competition, right? As soon as you see a category grow and be created, it attracts more competition.
A lot of attention. Attracts a lot of attention. I think from a bespoke, from a presentation perspective, it's wonderful. I mean, I would put this on a dining room table with friends, and if you have friends who are maybe celebrating your dry January or dry February, whatever it is. It's a delicious option. It's got the effervescence of a champagne.
The category kind of took off about 5 years ago, and before that, I mean, most people made their own kombucha at home, really.
What was the catalyst for the acceleration in the category? Like,
I think it had a lot to do with the fact that people want a healthy drink, and all of a sudden people wanted something else, and there were some successful brands out there which promoted the whole concept of kombucha. And instead of just making your own at home, you can actually buy it. Price points are fairly high. You really can't drink this at once. You have to. That's the thing about kombucha is a bottle like this, you have to share it. You can't really drink the whole thing on your own. I mean, you just can't. It's too much. And so this is the one thing that it's been an issue with that category, is that price points tend to be really high. And so for people who continue on to make kombucha at home, just actually continue to make kombucha at home. So
it feels a little bit like the plant-based phenomenon, because a couple of things happen all at the same time, right? The intersection of a bunch of things, more focus on thinking about where your food comes from, more healthy eating for some, and also the quality of the product goes up, right? So I think if you put those three things together, and again, I love this. My first time, so I'm really.
There you go.
I'm enjoying it. My gut. Let me see. My tummy is thanking me, I think. My tummy is
You've
thanking me.
lost your kombucha virginity, I guess.
I have. I have. Right
But
here on the
the one
podcast,
thing
ladies and
about
gentlemen, right
kombucha
here.
is that grocers have actually embraced the phenomena. They're as you walk into a grocery store, most of the time they jump in your face. Really, it's
Yeah.
there. It's very easy. These products are very easy to find in a grocery store.
And it's done. I guess it's if you look at another category, the de-alcohol, no alcohol wine and other beverages. That's had a little more challenge getting traction in grocery stores. Like there's a big community of folks who
Oh
would
yeah,
love to have non-alcoholic beverages. The taste and the quality of those have gone up. Whether it's for health reasons or for other reasons that you don't drink alcohol. But it really seems kombucha got purchased, so to speak,
yep,
more in the trade areas. Like you'd see, like in the big high traffic, high velocity areas, it's got some good
exactly.
placement, right? Well,
Yep,
this was delicious. So thanks again to our friends. Thanks again to our friends at Silver Swallow.
great
Delicious.
product.
We'll
Yes.
look for it. We'll put a link into Silver Swallow to go to the website. You can find out where you can pick some up. And for now, that's our Trying Stuff episode. All right. Let's wrap up. First, let's get to our interview with Adam. So let's have a listen to our interview with Adam. Again, you heard him on CNN. I got a copy of his book. His book's available on Amazon. It's a unique, interesting perspective from the front line of the grocery line. He started just before the pandemic. You've discovered his life as a writer. So let's have a listen to that interview right now. All right. Well, that was Adam, live from Denver. Such a nice guy.
That's right. Yeah.
Just relating his experience, which I think is just a very important part of, understanding retail, understanding the employees, and trying to figure out how it all comes together. I think it's
Funny.
worthwhile reading.
I mean, he basically literally worked 15 months in the business, I guess, and he wrote a book about his experience. And some people actually end up working decades in a
Sure.
grocery store without writing a line about the experience. So clearly he's an inspired fellow.
Yeah.
And I was happy to learn that he stayed in the food industry, but he's on the other side now, which is interesting. He's on the vendor side. So he sees the pandemic from a different perspective, which is also very interesting.
And the industry from a different perspective. And just that, when you read his book and you listen to as you just listen to his interview, I mean, he likes people because there's good and bad that happens, right? You see a lot of people, he recognizes the need of social interaction. I guess that's
right.
our call out for any of the listeners. You've already said it. Be patient. For some, it's only their trip out. So, be kind.
Right.
Be
Well,
kind
these
and be
days,
generous.
absolutely, it's an event to go to a grocery store. But yeah, I mean, if you're angry about something, going to the grocery store, think about a guy like Adam. Because I mean, he's and read his book. I mean, there's lots of great information there about his experience, and yeah, there's a lot of emotion right now going on at the grocery store these days.
Yeah. All right. Last thing I wanted to talk to you about was it seems Canada's got a few dings on the policy NAFTA trade side. I called it NAFTA, but there's something going on with New Zealand.
NAFTA 2.0, yeah.
And I think we lost a couple of rulings in the dairy side. What's going on in the trade regulation side that we should know about? Because it seems
on dairy, it's pretty simple. So there's a tribunal now that was set up by the United States, Mexico, Canada trade deal, which replaced NAFTA. It was ratified a couple of years ago. So they've set up this new tribunal, and for the first time, it was tested by the Americans. They contested Canada's, I would say, method of distributing importing quotas, like domestically. So the deal itself allows the Americans to import for about 3.5% of the milk production we see in Canada over 5 years.
That's the basic. That's the basic deal baked into CUSMA, the new NAFTA 2.0, right? That's your
exactly.
Basics. Okay.
Now, domestically for us, we had to figure out, well, who has the right to import these dairy products. So what we did was to give many of these quotas to dairy cooperatives and companies that are owned by dairy farmers. So as you can as you can imagine, they have zero incentive to import anything really. And if they do import something, it would be of low quality. So basically, the United States called on Canada, called it, and they won. And so, of course, that is certainly bad news for the Canadian dairy sector, because our scheme, we kind of cheated basically, and so we should take the blame for it. But here's the thing, Michael, is that we have a trade agreement with Europe, and we have a trade agreement with New Zealand and Australia. Guess what's going to happen next?
Yeah, they're
Because
going
we
to take.
have similar trade deals with them. They're going
They'll
to
take lessons from
contest.
that. Yeah. What's the European?
Exactly.
What's the
That's
European
been the
agreement?
game since day one. So we've ratified a lot of these trade deals, but we didn't really commit to opening up
Mm,
our border, at least not 100% yet, because of this scheme of giving
mm.
quotas to companies, organizations that wouldn't be motivated to actually import anything at all, really, to service Canadians. So I was actually kind of happy that the United States actually challenged Canada on that one, and I think at the end of the day, Canadians will benefit from the decision.
So it would be your assessment. I remember back to the days before we had NAFTA, where we'd get into trade disagreements with the U.S., and basically we'd be on the losing end of every agreement because there was no
All the
real
time.
great
Yep.
resolution process. And one of the things I liked about the NAFTA agreement is that there was a process, there was a tribunal. So there's actually a question here coming, if I can get it out, which is, you think the tribunal process is a fair process? Like, we weren't on the short end of a wrong process. You think the tribunal process, as it sits to resolve trade disputes, is a fair, balanced process? Because that wasn't always the case pre-NAFTA. You had the big giant U.S. going, yeah,
Right.
I'm going to do what I want, and take me to the
I
World
I don't
Court in
know
Geneva
about
or
the
something.
I don't know about the process that was
Mm,
put in place, whether or not it is fair for Canada particularly. But for this particular decision, I must say that the Americans are right. I
all right,
mean, they
all
are
right.
right. I think we have cheated. We've never committed to the promises we've made in spirit of the trade deal. We kind of just decided, well, let's actually allow more dairy products from the United States. But at the end of the day, we'll just give our quotas to people who don't want to really more competition in Canada.
And how
So
fast? This is fairly recent. How fast do you think the implications or reverberations of this are going to happen for the Canadian consumer? Is that a this year thing? Will
Uh, possibly, but it's certainly bad news for the dairy sector, because they're now exposed internationally. I mean,
mm,
this decision was broadcast internationally, so obviously other trade partners will go after Canada. That's really essentially what's going on right now. So it doesn't matter if the trade deal between the United States and Mexico is fair for Canada. More heat is coming
interesting,
from other
interesting,
parts of the world.
interesting.
It's
All right.
scary.
Well, we've talked about great things. We've talked about some concerns. It's been an interesting podcast. It's a great way to start the year. That's such may you live in interesting times, right?
Exactly.
And listen, it was great to see you and talk with
It's
you
great to
again.
see you, Mike. Yeah,
I've missed
absolutely.
that over the past, what is it, almost been a month, but we're back. We're back, and we've got great episodes coming up with great guests, lots to talk about, more great products for trying stuff. So for now, let's wrap the episode. If you liked what you listened to, you can find us on all the major podcast platforms. Please subscribe so it automatically shows up. Visit our YouTube site where you'll see some extended content, and of course our trying stuff. You can watch us drink kombucha and see what happens with my tummy that's kind of moving around right now. We'll see what's going on down there. A little bit of fun. Anyway,
Psychological.
it's all
Psychological.
psychological. Just delicious product.
Why don't you drink the whole bottle and see what happens?
I have to actually host a live event this afternoon, so I think I'm going to do that tomorrow. Uh,
Exactly.
and maybe I'll reverberate that tomorrow. Anyway, great to see you. Stay safe, and let's keep in touch. And for all the listeners, we'll be back again with our next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Food Professor podcast.
Take care.